I'm so excited to be interviewing today the incredible Kim Morrison for our interview with an Evolver series. Kim, how are you today?
Very, very excited to be with you, my love.
Oh, thank you. This is so awesome for us to be able to feature just incredible people in our community. And I would love for anyone who hasn't heard about you or met you, for you to share who you are and what you do in the world.
It's a beautiful question because when we really stop to reflect on what it is that we do in this world, sometimes I think we underestimate just what our contribution is. And it's really nice to celebrate that sometimes. So for me, I've been in the space of nurturing people, coaching people. I have a beautiful business called 28 Essentials, which is my passion and love using essential oils and beautiful organic skincare. Plus, I have a coaching business, and then I have two mentorship programs, the Self Love and Wellness Mentorship Group, which is every week. And then once a year, I run the Essential Self Mastery Program. So, a beautiful, diverse amount of different things that I do, as well as keynote speaking and emceeing. And in the little background, I do a little bit of celebrant, and I love marrying people as well.
That is a long resume, Kim Morrison. And I had the pleasure of witnessing you as a celebrant last weekend, and you're hands down the best celebrant I've ever witnessed. So authentic and heartfelt, and you just were perfect. Everything you do, actually, I'm always in awe of your presence, of your energy, and just how much you give. You and your podcast is incredible, and you've had us on there a few times as well. We're very grateful to have been. So I would love, for those who would love, who are hearing you talk about these things, I'd love to just start by asking you, why the emphasis on self-love? Because I know one of your books that I read before we'd even met as well was The Art of Self-Love. What has drawn you to that, and for that being your message over the years?
It's an interesting thing because when we grow up, often we can look at life, the things that happen to us, or the things that aren't maybe what we would have liked to have happened, but you realize they become part of your story, part of your picture, and part of your drive. And being raised by a single mum, and she was 16 when she had me, and just probably growing up with her, realizing just the role that I played as her right hand person. So often my dear mum would go off and work three jobs, and I would, from the age of 9, look after my 6 and 3-year-old sister and brother. And you just wouldn't do that today. But I realized those skills and those attributes and the desire to really help my mum made me realize that, one, I was good at it, but secondly, it taught me things that maybe I wouldn't have got if I hadn't had that upbringing. And I think for me, being a netballer when I was young and really trying to believe in myself and wanting to be a top elite athlete in that field also made me realize the importance of self-belief. And self-belief really comes from a drive of really believing in oneself, which comes, in my humble opinion, from a desire to love oneself, warts and all, and appreciating all the differences, the constraints, the weaknesses, the different parts of me that make me up, just sent me down this beautiful trajectory of understanding what it is that makes humans tick. And ultimately, it came down to me that those that thrive and are successful in life do have a real good, deep belief in themselves, which comes from a deep love of oneself. That's also meaning an acceptance of oneself when one stuffs up, if that's the right word, or makes mistakes, if they're the right words. So I think really believing and loving ourselves is part of the foundation, which allows us then to step into the world and be the best version of ourselves.
I agree. And I think it's easy to love yourself when things are all going well. But why is it so important to have self-love when life's not going your way, or when, we get older, or as things change, the body struggles with things? Why does self-love come into the forefront, and why is it so important?
Well, I think you guys teach this so beautifully, that life happens for you, not to you. That takes a lot of real deep work to understand that, and that we always have a choice every single day. So no matter what happens around us, to us, or for us, we are the ones in the driver's seat. And I think we forget that sometimes. I know I've forgotten that sometimes. And sometimes I felt like life's happening to me and it's not fair. But then I realized that I can pick myself up. And it's through, I think, watching things like Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, where we all set out in life with adventures and we all want to do the best that we possibly can. But we come up against dragons or slayers or people that knock us, or things go wrong or not according to the way we thought it should be. And yet that is part of the lessons. That is part of being human. And writing the book, The Art of Self-Love, I also learned, and my biggest question was, why do humans have to struggle? I mean, I have not met anyone yet, Juliet, who said to me their life is perfect, that they've met the right person, that they've got all the money they could ask for, they live in their dream home, they've got perfect health. And what I learned through the research over 3 years of writing that book was that actually part of the human conditioning, it appears, is that we also do struggle, or we meet dragon slayers and we meet things that come up against us. But here's what I really think is the juice. When you work through those challenges, those triggers, those times when we don't feel our best, and we get through them when we come out the other side, when we look back on it, we realize we wouldn't be who we are today without them. And many people actually, once we're through the deep pain of those challenges or those situations, and we gain some skills and we realize how strong and powerful and incredible we are, we also can become, dare I say it, grateful for those moments, because it's those things, the dark and the light, that shapes us. And if we can learn to embrace both sides, but also through the work that you guys offer, learn tools and techniques that help us traverse through them with more grace, with more courage, with more braveness, and also an understanding that we can live at cause and not effect, then I really do believe that it's understanding these tools and techniques that makes those challenges, I don't want to say easier, but we have a much stronger awareness, a greater intelligence, and perhaps more understanding, more compassion, more empathy for the human race. And that certainly comes back to us as individuals. If we can show that empathy and kindness to ourselves, like we would a little girl or a little boy, then wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have that when things are happening to us? And in my humble opinion, beautiful Juliet, it is the highs and lows, the dichotomies of life that shape who we are. And as I said, I'm yet to meet anyone who's had it perfect. But then I heard this other line, maybe life isn't perfectly perfect, or maybe it's perfectly imperfect. And maybe that is what you teach, where we have a choice each and every day, how we choose to show up and how we choose to traverse our way through those times.
Interesting. Absolutely. And I think when you mentioned before about how life's not happening to you, it's happening for you, one of the things that Paul and I discuss is, well, what if it's happening through you? You know, and so that helps you realize, like, ooh, it's a total different sensation or feeling if you consider it that way. So
I actually think that's another level again.
it's a total,
And when you go to that level, oh boy, you also start to realize that this whole thing is just an illusion. But that's another story.
it's definitely a fun rabbit hole we like diving down. Now, one of the things that I know you are really big on in your self-love program that you have, in your mentorship that you have, is you nurture community in a way that I really admire. And I think I've witnessed women, especially because a lot of the women in your programs are female, who the moment you say anything, they will literally, you know, hang on every single word, just love, love, love you, like wave the Kim Morrison flag. And you've been doing this work for such a long time. Like, what is your, I want to say, secret to showing up, doing this, giving, serving, guiding, creating community? You've been running your weekly self-love program for 4 years. Is that correct? So,
Yes.
so what thrive, like what fuels you to do that? And why do you think, like, nurturing community, and how do you do that? And what comes to mind when I ask you that very terribly worded question?
I thought it was perfect. I understood every part of it. I think dropping the whole essence of comparing myself to others was probably one of the biggest lessons of all. Realizing that even if you have high numbers of followers, it's not about that, it's about engagement. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I was nominated for a business awards. And one of those questions in there was, what is the cornerstone or the foundation of your business? And I had to really sit and reflect. And I realized actually there's 4 C's to everything I do: connect, care, collaborate, and contribute. And if I can actually work in those 4 spaces in every area of work that I do, then I feel like I am accomplishing more than I would have if I thought I had to have higher numbers or lots of followers or things. Because I've met people who have hundreds of thousands of followers. They're no different to you or I. They might be younger. They might be more savvy when it comes to using social media. And I've realized that rather than worrying about what everyone else is doing, probably one of the most important things for me is to stay in my lane, to do it how I would do it. And I think this work that we all do, and everyone watching this, the reason why you're drawn to this work, I believe for me, it keeps me in the work. It keeps me accountable. So the fact that I show up every week to my self-love and wellness mentorship group, they don't need to know that I'm going through a tough time or that I've just been in tears 10 minutes before the call.
Oh,
What
maybe
this
they do.
Well, I do share it. I do. Like, I'm open, but what it does is it puts me into a place of service. And how can I serve you even when I'm feeling like this? How do we work through this together? How can I show up in spite of what's going on in my world? And when I can connect into that, show care for myself and others, collaborate with everyone in the group and what we can do to make the world a better place, and then what can I give back with contribution, it all of a sudden for me takes off the intensity of the issue or the problem that I might have been going through, and I realize I'm not alone. And I think that's what I love most, is that we as humans, we think we're all alone, or we think that no one else cares, or we think that no one else is going through what we're going through. But actually, I think we could head this: welcome to the human race. We all go through different moments and times. And why I love the work that I do is it keeps me in it, but it helps me to step up and above it, and then do my inquiry, or then go and get a coach and do some clearing work, or then actually really journal or do a meditation or do some self-hypnosis.
What is one of your favorite coaching techniques that you have studied with us?
Well, I love doing the breakthroughs. Those full day breakthrough sessions are freaking amazing. You get the opportunity to dive deep into the person's story, their history. You get to understand who they are. And with watching all their nuances and their body language and really listening and engaging and taking that full history, oh boy, does my mind just explode. And I cannot wait to get into the integration work and then set goals. I think that's one of the most profound things we could ever do. And I think I also really, truly love hypnotherapy, the mind bend, when we can bend the language and when we keep asking questions back, and quality questions. Of course, timeline is extraordinary.
You're like me. You're just going to say everything, all the coaching tools and techniques.
I know, because each person I work with creates a different opportunity for me to use different techniques. But probably my favorite is timeline, the breakthrough, and then, of course, asking quality questions and using mind-bending language. I don't know. I think all of it is pretty profound, but I find myself going down the rabbit holes there, and I love hearing people's stories.
It's so fascinating. I agree. I think it's pretty challenging to coach someone if you haven't done that detailed personal history, because it's like giving you the map to their subconscious and you know exactly where to work. So for people who have maybe just studied NLP or hypnotherapy with us and they're starting out as a coach, what would be some advice you would give?
Oh, you never stop learning. And I think for me, why I did mastery or my master's in NLP is because I had a particular client who was worth squillions. So it wasn't about the money, but he was in a place where he would tell me everything that we would talk about and he'd do it. But he was a little bit of one of those gunners. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But he never actually quite did it. And I really felt like I needed some more tools and more skills to honor someone like him, who was very clever at hypnotizing me, by the way, into me believing that he would do the work or that he was changing it. And then every month we'd meet back up and nothing had changed. And he was about to lose his marriage and his children and his relationship. And he was only nearing 50. So doing masters, that values work and understanding values, I don't think you could ever say that that work changes the way you coach, because understanding our values and understanding even understanding what's really, really important to them, you realize that the mastery level of this NLP training actually stops you from being so hypnotized by your client. And I would have to say to you that, yes, starting out, enjoy it. But if you find yourself needing more, or you've got a client hypnotizing you, take that as a cue. You got to do the next level, because that is where I changed the work with him. And I feel like that's where I actually had better skills, better understanding. But more importantly, I wasn't being hypnotized by his story, because he was very good at changing it to hear and tell me what he thought I needed to hear. So yeah, definitely keep upskilling. Never ever underestimate the power of learning more, so that you've got more, I wouldn't say ammunition, because it's not about annihilating anybody, but it is about annihilating their story and the hypnotism or the story that they're in. And that, to me, will fast track their results tenfold.
100%. I feel like I always sort of share in all the trainings when Paul or I demonstrate techniques, that we're doing the technique the way that everyone in the class is going to do the technique. The big point of difference is our evolved state, our level of belief in the client being able to get an outcome. And that comes through confidence and competence. So the skills and the practice. And the more clients you work with and the more study you do, the more you peel away from yourself, the more you can really hold space and pin when people are deflecting or avoiding things or things in a real artful, elegant way. And that's what I love about, there's no two, coaching sessions that are exactly the same. It's a co-creation between the client and the coach. But even I think for people who aren't wanting to become a coach traditionally per se, the skills of NLP and hypnotherapy, I know you're a really big advocate of, just on a personal level, knowing yourself on a deeper level and letting go of those things. I think, I know that you sort of say that we're the only place that you recommend for people to study this kind of stuff with. And I'm curious from your perspective why that is.
Well, because I have such a passion for love and relationships, and that's why I'm a marriage celebrant, but why I believe our relationships are the most important thing, the most amazing thing that we have in our life. Humans are tribal creatures. We're part of a community. That includes our relationships with our partners, our children, our parents, our siblings, our community. And if you can understand the way humans tick and what makes us work, you will find, in my humble opinion, that you don't get so triggered or challenged, or you actually do the work on yourself rather than expecting other people to change. That is one of the biggest fundamental understandings of humankind, is not wanting to change anyone, because the more we try to do that, I always ask, how does that work out for you? Because it doesn't. But when you change the way you see the world, or you change the way that you look at things that bring things up for you and work on yourself, then the way that you look at the world changes as well. And I think the judgment, the comparison, the guilt, the things that we carry often into relationships, that dissipates. And then people will be warm to you. People will be drawn to you, whether you are wanting to do this as a coach or whether you want to be just a good human. We need these skills when we're teaching, parenting, co-creating, when we're working in a workplace with different personalities and temperaments, when we are, these skills should be taught in school, in my humble opinion. You cannot underestimate the power of communication, the power of language, and the power of understanding what it means to be a human at a high evolved state. And I think what's so beautiful when you do this kind of training, especially with you and Paul, there is something about seeing the yin and the yang, the masculine, the feminine. You get to see a relationship for what it is, and you get to ask questions from either side. And I think the way you both deliver the information, it's entertaining, but it's also incredibly engaging. And what I really love about it is that we have a choice of who we want to ask questions to, depending on how we're feeling or how we're seeing the work that's being presented. So no one does it like you guys. No one teaches it, and teaches it in a way that's in an everyday way, but also at a high level coaching way. I don't know if you guys realize the magic that you have, but I've never seen anyone teach this work like you. And I got taught this back when I was 23. So just know that I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to blow smoke anywhere. I just believe that you're the best in the business. And if anyone's questioning it, take my word for it, you will never regret being a part of this training.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. And for us, having incredible people such as yourself dive into the deep end and explore things like your unconscious mind, your shadow, your patterns, your past, your projections, but also all of these cool tools and techniques. It's the world is a better place for you being able to equip yourself, because I know the ripple effect of not only in your mentorships but in your coaching as well. Like everything that you do benefits as a result of you having access to these skills and helping other people with it. So thank you so much for sharing your light with our beautiful community. And I would love to close with one final question, which is, if you could tell the Kim before she'd studied with Evolve and Relaunch anything, what would you say about what was about to unfold?
Oh, you're amazing. You're incredible with everything you've done and experienced and embraced throughout your whole life. But you're about to have the most incredible, insightful, and the most beautiful, almost a spiritual understanding of yourself that will open up a plethora of relationships and opportunities you didn't even see coming. That's how powerful it is.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I think you're already just shining so bright, kicking so many goals. And I love that about you. And actually, everyone in our community is that commitment to continuing to keep evolving and keep learning and keep growing and opening up. So thank you so much. Thank you for all of the beautiful work that you do in the world. It doesn't seem like work. It just seems like you sprinkling glitter all over things. If you haven't already, definitely head to 28 and check out Kim's oils. They are beautiful. She has the most delicious range. She has written many, many books. So check her out. Follow her on Instagram. I'll put the links for your website as well for anyone who is wanting to find out more about your mentorship and your programs. Thank you so much, Kim. Any final words that you want to share?
I think if anybody wants to talk to me about the trainings, or if they wanted sort of my own personal experience of it, very happy to talk. But the way we live in this world, and we could look at it that there's lots of challenge and chaos and drama and all of these things, or we can do this work and realize that the world is beautiful and engaging and opening, and there are so many opportunities for every single one of us. We are all so unique and so beautiful, and all of our experiences are there to teach you something even greater about yourself. And when you take in the tools and the essence of the work of Evolve and Relaunch, you realize that it's been there for you to go. And I loved what you said. It is perhaps coming through you that allows you to be an even bigger, better version of yourself. You're already amazing. You are already incredible and unique. But imagine being even better. Imagine being even more extraordinary and more gracious and more humble and more loving than you could have ever imagined. Then you will never regret doing this work. I can honestly, hand on heart, promise you that.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. I feel like you just gave us all a big warm hug. It was beautiful to be in your energy. And thank you so much for being on this month's episode of Interview with an Evolver.
My pleasure.